Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 212 of Album of the Day, before I get into this video, hope all of you had a good Halloween a few days ago, because this is when I'm doing this. Anyway, let's get on to the review. Today's artist is a Canadian singer-songwriter who started out as kind of a humble alternative country singer, but then eventually turned into one of indie music's most beloved and imaginative poets for the early to mid 2000s. Of course, I'm talking about the songwriter known as Neko Case, which I'm here to review her latest album, her seventh solo record, which just dropped on June 1st of 2018. And the album is called Hell On. And as you can see, I got this on vinyl, which I bought this at Soundgarden about a month after the record was released, which I didn't know she was putting out a new record until around mid-May. But as soon as I found out, I knew that I could not miss out on it because I am a huge fan of this woman's body of work, which I'll get into later in this review. Anyway, I will say that I will highlight that this is one of my favorite album covers of the year, right here. Really like the kind of computer sort of effects that they put on Neko Case here, with the cigarette butts and the fire on her shoulder. Really cool. Spine. And then there's the back. There's 12 songs on this record. It clocks in at over 52 minutes, so this is Neko Case's second longest record to date, which contrasts with her more shorter releases that she usually puts out. Released on Anti and Lady Pilot, which is her own record label. Named after her song Lady Pilot from the album Blacklisted. Of course, I love me a gatefold, and whenever I get a gatefold that's like this complex, it's always cool. And I'm, of course, so happy that she finally put in the lyrics into one of her album packagings. And there's side 1, and then there's side 2. Then there's the second sleeve. And I also really like the artwork of cigarette butts that's all over this album. Side 3, side 4. And there's a big kind of booklet in here too. Which has some really nice photography as well as liner notes for all the songs. That photo is really cool. Along with that one. Yeah, definitely really nicely packaged vinyl right there. And I also really like the photo with the spider on it, by the way. Um, and that's the vinyl packaging for Hell On, the new album from Neko Case. Of course, like I said, huge fan of this woman's body of work, especially records of hers like Blacklisted and, of course, Fox Confessor Brings the Flood, all of which are records I highly recommend. And Middle Cyclone is a little more pop accessible, but definitely a very refreshing and mature record in her catalog. Her previous solo record, The Worst Things Get, certainly was a pretty good album, but I have to admit that compared to her other records, this one didn't really leave the same emotional impact that much of her material from the mid 2000s seemed to really possess. However, I think with Hell On, she really made a return to form here on this record, making by far her most accessible and musically grand, but also her most emotionally intense and harrowing record to date. I mean, just take a look at the opening track, Hell On, which is a really good opener for the record. It starts out with an eerie kalimba coda before it eventually transitions into this tense, dreary acoustic guitar riff, and she opens up the song with singing, "God is not a contract or a guy. God is an unspecified tide." Tide right off the bat, giving you goosebumps with some of those poeticisms. And I love how cinematic the song feels, not just musically, but lyrically as well, as she sort of talks about how we should all be careful of the natural world, because she's practically an agent of it. And to pretty much sum the song up, she says in that refrain, "Don't you tell me I didn't warn you, that that's some gravity you ought not to play with. There's nothing quite so poison as a promise." And I also really like all the cool instrumentation that she incorporates in there, like dark cellos, twinkling, reverbed auto harp, as well as a really awesome kind of dramatic midsection featuring some odd vocalizations which kind of sound like screams a little bit, which is kind of freaky, but it sounds cool. Cool. The next track, Last Lion of Albion, is yet another pretty is definitely a worthy sequel to that track. Slightly more up-tempo, but no less emotionally affecting. I really like her how her symbolic lyrics of Last Lion of Albion, Last Cedars of Lebanon, and The Last She-Wolf to Mother Rome are pretty much symbolic of the themes of extinction that kind of permeate this album. Really well, and really showing how she has plenty of imagination to her lyrics while still making it pretty easy to comprehend. If you were able to give it like 3 or 4 more listens. Since Katie Lang's beautiful backup vocals on the track, as well as the kind of drony acoustic guitar riffs, some kind of itchy percussion on there, and melancholy piano. It's definitely a great track, and also one example of how how outstanding the choruses throughout this album are. Halls of Sarah is yet another example of Neko Case still having those skills as a poet, especially in that lovely second verse where she says, "They build their industries around you, diverting rivers of your hair." They're looking for their own reflection. You're left to die of exposure, Sarah. Can't get any more Neko Case than that. Uh, Case, but I also love the production on the song too. The eerie baritone sax, and the acoustic guitar riffs are contrasted really nicely by kind of weird sort of streams of noise, which makes sense because half of this record is actually co-produced by Bjorn Yttling from the band Peter, Bjorn, and John. And I also love the jaunty harpsichord outro on this song too. It definitely sounds beautifully melodic, but it still does have some darkness to its lyrics of a recording machine screaming, "Haunt your own vampire dreams." Then it's followed up with the lead single, "Bad Luck." And let me say, this song is probably one of Neko Case's best songs, I think, not just of this album, but her career. Killer chorus on the track, and as well as fantastic lyrics, which sort of talk about how she's in this phase of feeling conflicted, and kind of sort of talking about how she could have stopped things like waking a dog from a running dream and chipping her tooth on an engagement ring, but it still would be bad luck all the same. And she also summarizes this feeling really well in the first verse, which says, "Are you tired of things going right, things going wrong? Tired of trying to make everyone happy? Tired to sing your own songs?" And also, awesome production on the song too. A trance-like drum machine, as well as a very up-tempo, head-bobbing bass line, which I really like on there too. It really shows Neko Case taking some true risks, but this song also has a little more of an emotional impact due to the fact that while she was recording the song, she actually got a phone call that her house had burned down, hence the artwork of that looks like a house that had just been damaged by fire. And some of the photos possibly could be of Case's own house that had caught fire, which, if you want to learn more about this tragedy, check out her interview that she did prior to this record on Q on CBC. Curse of the I-5 Corridor is one of the song's most ambitious songs due to its 7-minute runtime, which is pretty long in comparison to some of her other shorter compositions. But she really pulls this ambition off with some lyrics that are bound to just kind of tear your heart apart. With its lyrics about this relationship that's slowly but surely kind of crumbling apart. In fact, this could be kind of about the death of a relationship. So considering the intensity of the lyrics, it makes sense that we have a gothic guest vocal on the track from Mark Lanegan, which surprisingly, Case and Lanegan's voices go really well together. Well on the track, and this is another song where she's sort of dealing with feeling conflicted about a relationship, especially in lines like, you were a good man before you knew it, and I'm not vain enough to think that I'd been good enough for you if I'd stayed in the current of your life, and sort of fearing that she feels extinction on this Novocaine age coming on, which definitely the title, Hell On, definitely is summed up really well in that line. And she sort of says, in the chorus, concludes that maybe these two should go home alone tonight, and how they're pretty much two self-fulfilling and also at the end of the song she says how they're two self-fulfilling prophecies who don't even have each other. The instrumentation on the song is kind of melancholy, and dreary. Really nice piano on there. And I do really like the kind of tense, melancholy finish of the song too. With its kind of cinematic instrumentation. Dirty Diamond is yet another pretty ambitious moment on the album, due to its really unique song structure. Like, I really like how after the chorus where she says, "I remember running chest high in the steppe grass at the dawn of man when we got along." She kind of speeds up the tempo a little bit, and sort of squeezes in 4 little mini verses at once, but but still allowing the listener to hang on to every word she says when she talks about playing a tender game of kissing Cobra Tag, and the years leaving constellations of language, and also sort of finding beauty as well as danger in petroleum, which she could be making some sort of like metaphor for something, and not necessarily for like petroleum, the actual substance. The substance. The song's instrumentation sounds really cool. I love kind of the darkness of the vibes of the song. It has a vibe similar to that of a song like Dirty Knife off of Fox Confessor. And also, some of the most inspired drumming on the entire record. I mean, we do have Matt Chamberlain, a pretty skilled drummer, providing the percussion parts on here. Which he's pretty well known for her drum work with artists like Fiona Apple. Winnie. So the song Winnie is one of the lighter, more melodic tracks on the record, but still no less emotionally powerful. Where she sort of talks about how she's sick on chronic mathematics and she just wants to feel music, but then sort of bringing up some pretty dark lyrics, like the line of a fever delivering her from the flu, and as well as a bank of warships called She. And then she eventually meets this woman named Winnie. Who like sings her this song that was like too sad for some, and the song sort of has lines of "We clothed ourselves in the guts of our enemies, who no respect for the wild," which is sung very beautifully by Beth Ditto, another great guest appearance on this album. Like, if you're gonna sing me something that's really gonna leave an impact later in my day, just throw a beautiful woman's voice on there, and I'm hooked. And this song definitely does sound a little bit like her older, more folky material like Blacklisted, but it still definitely feels very relevant to this album. But then it's followed up with another big highlight of this album for me, the song "Sleep All Summer," which is a really gorgeous duet with Crooked Fingers frontman Eric Bachman, who actually makes lyrical contributions to the song. And this song is, like, by far kind of the poppiest on the record, but it's also definitely one of the song's most potent tracks too. Their voices match together beautifully on the song, and I also do really like how it's about these two people who are in a relationship where they could change, but that doesn't mean that, they're going to become better people necessarily. Really. And also, Bachman definitely has some really nice poeticisms that suit Neko Case's own record really well. Lines like, curtains fall fashions fade, and an endless summer over. Just another tide to launch an autumn moon over the dunes. For the dunes. And also, the song has one of this album's best choruses, I think, too. It's definitely showing how kind of like catchy and accessible this album is in terms of its pop hooks. So songs like this and Bad Luck definitely are some perfect examples of that. So, so there ain't as it just sounds like so gorgeous as they sing. There ain't no way we're gonna find another the way we sleep all summer. Why won't you fall back in love with me? So this may be one of the more optimistic moments on the record, but yet never really feels at ease. But to contrast with this moment, we get the harrowing "My Uncle's Navy," which musically does sound like your kind of typical, like kind of upbeat indie rock song, right? Unless you pay attention to the lyrics. The lyrics on this song sort of talk about how kind of like terrible of a person her uncle apparently was. He used to serve in the Navy, and he scares all the little girls away, including Neko herself. As she's sort of twisting away from the horror, and she sort of feels like she's choked into the shape of a sailor. And showing yet another, which is, I mean, this song may be one of the most cathartic songs that Neko has ever written. I mean, this is the kind of thing she would have been afraid to sing about back in the day, but now that she's sort of taking risks and actually being able to talk about it now is pretty amazing. So I definitely give her huge props for that. Huge props for that, as she says, the one. So I hate those that gave him access to our days. The ones who did nothing, I still can't love them. And musically, and I also love all the cool instrumentation incorporated into the song. Like, you get, this song features some really nice, subtle use of bass flute, which I do really like, over the song's kind of new wave inspired, rock sort of instrumentation. And the album also does have a pretty satisfying finish with the song "Pitcher Honey," which opens up with a really cool drum machine, and then this kind of eerie instrumental that uses minor chords to make this a sadder song. Major chords to make this a sadder song, as she says in the lyrics. Lyrics, and sort of talking about how she wrote this song for her, and now she let it go from the island of the Texaco. Released it into the custody of her huckleberry friend. Then, after a really nice kind of sticky, dark chorus, the song eventually transitions into something, into a very triumphant sort of finish, as she says, I love you better when you're wild. It suits you better if I say so. When I am dark and I am down, the only thing that makes me smile is to remember that I'm beloved of the wild. And then she sort of closes out the album with, may you never ever return to the warmth of your species. And this song, the melodies of this track are really nice. Really nice. I love its kind of out of tune piano chords, as well as her very catchy sort of vocal hook. Am I making pitch, honey? Before she closes out the song with a really triumphant sort of indie rock finish. Overall, don't have a whole lot of complaints about this record. There are a couple of moments here that I think pale in comparison to other moments here. Like, I'd say Oracle of the Maritimes is probably my least favorite track on here. This is the one song where I feel like the kind of darkness, the production and the lyrical content is like so dark and dreary to the point where it kind of is a little taken a little too far. A little too far. And the song Gumball Blue. Ball Blue is kind of another lull for me, though it definitely is much better than the previous track I just mentioned. It's really love the catchy piano stylings on there, along with its lyrics, with sort of document Case sort of alone in this hotel where she's sort of feeling sorry, stay in her mouth. Gumball Blue. Though I would say musically this is definitely kind of one of the weaker moments on here, because not quite as ambitious as much of the album is. But overall, I definitely think Case really put out a very strong record over here. I mean, I can definitely see how, like, if you were slightly underwhelmed by some of Case's solo work before this and want more of that kind of Fox Confessor kind of sort of emotionally intense kind of poetry, I think you're gonna find a lot of good things in Hell On. And it also sort of really shows her taking more risks than ever before. Really, this is a very important record in her discography. It's challenging, but yet very accessible and very well done. So I'm definitely going to go with a 9 out of 10. A light 9 out of 10 for this new Neko Case record, Hell On. And I'll see you for episode 213.